Hello, I'm Donald Leggett. Welcome to the latest London South East CEO interview. Today I'm joined by John Wood, CEO of AIM-listed Harland Wolff. Hello, John. It is great to hear from you again.
Good morning, Donald. Good to be back talking to you.
It's absolutely fantastic, and we've got some cracking questions for you today. So let's kick off. 2.5 years into your 5-year plan for the Harland Wolff Group, and it's fair to say Brexit, COVID, and the you mustn't forget the Ukraine war. They haven't made life easy, have they, John? Are you where you'd hope to be?
Well, look, Donald, I think you've got some strengths and you've got some weaknesses in there. I think the Ukraine war has certainly brought our Island McGee gas storage project on leaps and bounds, given the energy crisis.
That's true.
And I think, when you look at the ship repair business and the shipbuilding business, we're 2.5 years in, we've secured our first order with cruise vessels. We had the Queen Victoria in. We've got shipbuilding started in Belfast with the 20 barges that we've got building there. We've got a first defence contract in down in Appledore. So you know what? It's not too bad a place to be in. I think the fact that we're still winning multiple contracts in the environment that is, we're actually quite buoyant, to be fair.
And so why are things not quite as bleak as they might seem?
Well, I think if you look at the markets we're in, Donald, we've got the 5 core markets, which is oil and gas, cruise and ferries, renewables, in commercial maritime. The defence market, you're looking at increase per head per capita as we go forward between the Northern Ireland and the UK in general. We're looking at that whole spending going up. We're looking at cruise vessels. They're not going to be building as many cruise ships, so refurnishment will go up. You've got a crunch in the energy markets. So you're seeing FPSOs, floating platform, storage and offloading vessels that were due to be decommissioned, being brought back into service and refurnished. And you're looking at that whole commercial market really coming alive again with all the activity in the North Sea. And, the renewables market's just going from strength to strength. I think with the 2024, you've got ScotWind coming in numerous other projects. So look, we're in a great place, and that the 5 markets really give you a chance to pick the best contracts between the different markets and really spread that risk around a bit,
And coming over the horizon, you've got the 1.6 billion fleet solid support contract. Put that in context for us. What is it, and how likely are you to get something out of that contract?
Well, look, that's a contract that's been in procurement now for 2 and a bit years. We've got 2 positions in that contract. One is with Navantia, and BMT is Team Resolute, and the other is a partner with the Team UK contract. Which, look, if Team UK win it, it won't be. It is good for us. If Navantia win it, it will be great. But look, there's no bad position in this for us. I mean, the industry experts, it's been all over the media that they believe these are the 2 preferred bidders. So whatever happens, it will be significant work and really building a backlog of 4 years for the company. And I think you look at the beauty of the Team Resolute bid, that sees the revitalisation of the shipyard in Belfast and really importing a lot of technical know-how from our partners in Spain. Which have delivered several ships on time, on budget after the last 4 years. So look, it's a win-win for us and a really exciting time,
And when do you expect to hear about that contract, the Fleet Solid Support contract, John?
Well, look, I think you've got 2 phases to this. There'll be a preferred bidder announcement, which is due relatively shortly. And then you've got the contract award, which we expect to be next year.
Okay. The UK, okay, let's turn to UK manufacturing. Not being so good at actually creating manufacturing jobs in the UK. What difference will this contract make? Have the government procured it in a different way to try and establish local jobs?
Well, the government have done an interesting thing. They've opened the competition up to international competition rather than just UK competition, which allows for collaboration. And it allows for, bringing in best practice from around the globe, while still also protecting UK jobs by saying, a significant portion of the manufacture and the consolidation of the vessels and the blocks have to be done in the UK. So for us, it's great news. It gives us a chance to really build up that UK workforce, and there'll be collaboration with us sending some guys over to the yards in Spain. And I think when you look at UK shipbuilding at the moment, you've got blocks getting subcontracted out for vessels to Germany and the likes. You've got various different foreign national labour working in the UK shipyards. So I think it's a real blend. And I think the cold reality, we've got 52% of the manufacturing capacity and capability in the UK with our 4 yards. And there really isn't enough trained labour and trained skills in the UK. And don't forget, to be competitive in the environment we're in, by using a blended UK Spanish labour rate and productivity rate, it really gives us that edge over other UK shipyards, And
presumably that's why you've been building your business up and gaining that dominant position in the UK market for contracts just like this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what also, by having the 4 yards in 4 different locations in Appledore, Arnish, Methil and Belfast, we're not over-reliant on drawing all of labour from one location. We can split that risk up. And when you look at some of these bigger contracts, with the risk assessment on it, really focuses in on, can you man up the project and can you deliver it? And I think with the mix of markets and the mix of geographical locations, it really de-risks where we are. And I think the build-up in projects that we've had really stands testament to where we are, and it's actually come together, and the strategy's proven to be the right strategy at the right time, like we thought it would be. And we're going on to build a business we always said we would,
And it's been noted that the business, you've been building the senior team, so you seem to be putting your money where your mouth is. You've been pulling in a lot of senior people lately.
Well, we have, Donald, and look, I think there's 2 bits to that. I think we've taken a bit of time to look at where we've got to in the sense of the advisors and the way we're engaging across the market to say, okay, do we need to freshen up there a little bit? And we're building that senior delivery team now, knowing what works. Don't forget, we've got most of these projects that we've been tendering for the last 2 years are all, projects in the future. So we've probably got, I think it's just under 2 billion of projects that we've tendered, and you're only starting to see the first few of these projects turn into wins. Look, our win-loss ratio is better than we thought it would be at this stage of the game. So I think we continue to move forward on that. But the team, look, we're just looking for strength and depth. A couple of the recent additions, Ian Ure that's come in as Chief Strategy and Transformation. That's really looking to bring the group together in the 4 individual yards to actually operate as one key group. And I think linked in with that is Andrew Jackson, who's come in recently as the group head of HR, really leaving Kelly focused on the day-to-day, and Ian looking over that radar and looking over the horizon to say, hey, how we're going to build in the future and where we're going to get our people from. So look, I think it's all about strength and depth, and I think preparing ourselves for the next chapter, which is really exciting for us,
Okay, if we're talking contract wins, you must be very pleased to have got the Lithuanian Navy contract and the Corrie barge contract. Put those together, that's 78 million. It's all very encouraging. So on the other hand, why do you think the share price is trading at a 52-week low?
The share price is really disappointing. Look, I think it's not just ourselves. I think it's across the markets. They're getting mullered every place at the moment. And look, I think it's all about winning contracts. It's all about putting some certainty down around how we're going to finance the business as we go forward. And I think you look at the contracts that we have, we've got a backlog of over 100 million now. Look, I think we're in the place where we wanted to be, and it's really just adding to that volume. We get to the volume, we get the efficiencies of scale kicking in, and then we'll start to see some real profitability come into the table. And I think it's about getting that mass and getting that critical mass, which we're getting there now with the wins we're getting under the belt. Lithuanian Navy to have, from not being involved in naval work, to have gone through a whole naval procurement progress and secured that work from nothing to where we are. Look, that was a huge achievement. I think usually it takes about 5 years to get through that process. We've managed to work hard and get through that. But we've also got that's a column that's getting converted for Lithuania. We've also got the Athelston that arrived in the dock last week, that we'll have some announcements coming out on that project, because we've got a project that's been negotiated for her next change in life. So look, there's all sorts happening, and I think the barge for that NLI, it arrived in London on Saturday. So I think that's the first major fabrication contract come out of Appledore. So it's just every building block is building to that next level, you know.
Which takes us nicely to the debt funding of 70 million, which you have in place. If work comes from a fleet contract, for example, or for all these other different contracts, nascent, weighted pipeline, whatever, you know, there's a lot going on. So you need to fund it. What's the plan?
We do, Donald. I think if you look at the funding as of today, we've drawn down half of the 70 million. We've still got the other half of the 70 million to draw down, which we're looking to get that done fairly shortly. And then on top of that, we've also got negotiations underway that have been going on for many months with the next phase of the funding. Because I think the one thing with this business is we have to fund the working capital as we go forward. So I think we're looking at that ahead of schedule, so we know where we need to get to. Clearly, the share price the way it is, an equity raise is not something that's palatable at this time. So I think it's all looking at how we can fund the business in different ways. And don't forget, you've also got UK export finance, which is really good for us. And as part of the national shipbuilding strategy, there's also talk of a new home shipbuilding loan guarantee scheme, which again really provides some strength and depth into that funding space. So I think, look, funding we don't see as being a showstopper for us. We think there's lots of options out there. It's just negotiating through that to get the best deal as we can. Look, obviously debt's expensive, but we need to get the growth, we need to get the critical mass, and you know that's the way we'll fund it, you know.
Okay, all makes sense. Okay, let's take Harland Wolff, the business, at a granular level and talk about inflation. What kind of impact is it having on the cost of raw materials, wage price inflation, and can you pass those inflationary costs on to the customer?
Well, look, Donald, I'm hoping we might get a bit of stability in the government at some point. I mean, I thought when we had the leadership election, we'd actually get some stability, but clearly that's not to have been. But look, inflation is an issue. What we tend to do when we tender contracts is we back-to-back up with subcontractor contracts. For stuff with subcontract now, we've got our labour rates fixed in. So look, we're in a relatively safe place. One of the things we have been hit hard by is steel prices. So what we've actually done is taken steel prices out of any fixed element of pricing, and it's a floating rate that our clients will deal with, whether it goes up or if it goes down, they'll get the benefit of it. So it's all just about being a bit more commercially astute. And you know, that's the reason we brought Charlotte Davies in as head of commercial. So she's got that real laser pinpoint focus on to make sure we have a commercial position covered, you know.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. You haven't bought anything for over a year, John. I'm delighted to see. So I'm hoping you're going to tell me there are no deals on the horizon.
There's nothing on the horizon at the moment, Donald, but you know what I'm like. I'm always up for a speculative bargain if one comes along. And I think you look at the 4 yards we've got, when we bought them as individual yards, there was a few strange looks I got, and you know, people tell me we'd never get a cruise ship into Belfast ever again, or would never build a new ship, or would never get a defence contract. You know, we're negotiating an 8 to 10 ship deal at the moment for cruise ships. So I think things like that, with the fleet solid support contract, you know, everything's possible. And I think it's all about setting yourself up and setting the team up to succeed, you know.
Okay, let's talk Island McGee. There's a degree of vindication about Island McGee for you. We're now in the middle of an energy crisis with gas storage at a premium. And I remember I've worked with you over a number of years, John. You were telling the government this years ago. And absolutely, every winter you were going, this is possible. It might all go, and it has. So absolutely, do you feel to an extent vindicated?
Well, look, for me, it's not about vindicated. For me, it's about getting the project away and getting the deal done. Where we are at the moment, we've got the judicial review. going through. We should hear about that in November. And once that goes away, really, yeah, I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer of a project now. I think we are at risk of the lights going out this winter. You know, I think it was going to happen. I think now Nord Stream's been hauled as well. It's just reducing the optionality. And I think, you know, you look at Rough, that there was talk of Rough coming back into use, but, you know, even if Rough comes back into use now, it will take them all next summer to fill Rough. And, you know, that the whole thing with a long cycle storage project like Rough, you know, you have to have enough gas to fill it in the first place, because you put it in for 6 months and you take 3 months taking it out again. Whereas the fast cycle store that we've got, it can be turned around within 6 hours from injection to withdrawal. So, you know, it's a lot more apt for the conditions we're trading in. And look, what an exciting project to go from where it was to where it is now. And I think the level of interest, and look, it's a national strategic asset now. And I think the level of interest that's come in over the last 6 months has been amazing, to be fair. So we're really
just give us a thumbnail sketch of Harland McGee, how much it's going to cost, the benefits of Harland McGee, and why it's just simply at the right place at the right time.
Well, look, I think what it does is, as I said, it's a fast cycle store, gas in, gas out onto the network, and it just gives you that buffer. We can also convert it to use hydrogen in the future if the market demands that. And I think the ability, once you reverse the interconnectors that can take gas from being stored in Ireland, or hydrogen, or a blend, back into the UK mainland through the interconnectors. And I think, you know, if you look at the UK, we've got less than 2% of storage, opposed to our European counterparts that have got 25% of storage. So the project, you know, we're at a risk at the moment. And I think the government's line was always, we've got multiple lines of supply. Well, I think they've just seen them dry up quite significantly. So I think having our own storage and making sure the lights don't go out, and making sure we can grow the economy by not shutting factories down that can't get enough gas to keep them going, you know.
I would imagine that the value of Harland McGee has gone up significantly in those last 6 months.
Absolutely. I think, look, it's only worth what people are willing to pay for it. But certainly some indications we've had is it's doubled, if not tripled in price since we started looking at the project, you know. Okay,
that's us, John. We're out of time. John Wood, CEO at Harland Wolff, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us today. It's fascinating as ever. Meanwhile, don't forget to check out our free Harland Wolff company data and chat pages on the London South East website. And to see more free investment interviews like this one, just Google London South East YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you all have a great day.